Welcome in. This is Chiefs Chase. My name is Mike Bassano, and thank you so much for joining me here on another edition, a Broncos Week edition of the Midweek Blitz.
To win it. Oh! Blocked! The Chiefs have won!
The Midweek Blitz is where we break down everything Kansas City Chiefs and we get you ready for the upcoming game. This week, it is the Denver Broncos in Denver in a game that has so much heightened importance that we're going to spend a lot of time on it, and we're going to do it right in a second with how big of a game this is. But first, a quick discussion about the perception of the Kansas City Chiefs. We often start with the perception. I'm normally upset about it. I feel like the Chiefs are getting talked down about. People are looking at them like they're not a contender, all kinds of stuff. But for the most part, aside from some idiots who think the Chiefs won't even make the playoffs because they're too ignorant to even know what they're talking about on any basis whatsoever. And there are some of those out there, but frankly, most of those people are people who really don't have any idea what they're talking about in the first place. The vast majority of people see the Chiefs, I think, fairly accurately. This is a team that on the field passes the eye test. You watch them and you think this is definitely a Super Bowl contender and without question a playoff team. But right now the Chiefs are 5-4. They are on the outside of the playoff picture in the AFC looking in. So they have to step up and finish games. Stop losing the close one-score games and prove it on the field in order for them to be taken more seriously as a legitimate contender. And I think that's fair. You got to translate what we're seeing into wins. And I think the Chiefs fully understand that, and Patrick Mahomes has said as much multiple times since the loss in Buffalo. So let's dive right in. We have the number one key to the game coming up here in just a couple minutes. But first, this is a must-win game for the Kansas City Chiefs. 100% must win. If they want to win the AFC West, this is it. If the Chiefs lose this game and go to 5-5, and the Denver Broncos then go to 9-2, with tiebreaker over the Kansas City Chiefs, then I don't know what to tell you. This is going to be a very, very tough division to win if that's the case. But if the Chiefs win, now the Broncos are 8-3. The Chiefs are 6-4. And they're just one loss behind the Denver Broncos with a chance to play the Broncos again, which means the Chiefs would then control their own destiny against the Denver Broncos. Now, they'd still need to beat the Chargers and get some help in order to win the AFC West. But for the most part, a win in Denver puts the ball very much in Kansas City's court. A loss in Denver, I got to tell you, I think it eliminates the AFC West chances in a realistic way. Now, if the Broncos fall apart, the Chargers fall apart, the Chiefs win out, the pie-in-the-sky scenarios of what could happen if the Kansas City Chiefs lose to the Broncos, yeah, those still exist. But the reality is, if you want a legitimate, realistic chance at winning the AFC West this year, the Chiefs have got to win in Denver this week. So this is a must-win game. The second one of the year, in my opinion. The first one was against the Detroit Lions. It kept the Chiefs on the come-up, looking like a team that was a contender. In a situation where the Broncos and the Chargers had won that day, and in order to keep in contention for the AFC West and prove that they could beat a really good team, the Chiefs had to beat the Lions, and they did. Now, granted, that game was in prime time at home. That makes it a very different animal for Kansas City. But the hope is, in this game, the Chiefs bring their best possible effort, because they're going to need their best possible effort. This Broncos team has a lot to like. They have weaknesses. I don't think they are all of an 8-2 team. I think they're probably closer to a 6-4 team. But they found a way to win. And there is an art to winning ugly. And that's something the Denver Broncos have done extremely well, is fine-tune the art of uglying up a game and then pulling it off at the end. We saw the Chiefs do this a lot last year, where they would play ugly football game after ugly football game, and they uglied their way to 15-2. So it's hard for me to believe that the Denver Broncos can't keep winning this way. We've seen it before. So the Chiefs are going to have to find a way, despite the uglying up of the Denver Broncos' entire game plan, because that's what they do. This is on purpose. Sean Payton doesn't come out and go, we're going to play a really pretty football game and then win ugly. They're trying to execute for sure, but in a lot of ways, they use that defense and the grittiness of that team and J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. They use all those guys to muddy up the game and make it very difficult to win. So the Chiefs are going to have to find a way to try to pull Denver out of their game. And we will give you a prediction at the end of this show as to a score prediction and who the MVP of this game will be and who it has to be in order for the Kansas City Chiefs to win. We'll get to all that towards the end of the show because we have a lot more to get to.
Nope, it is Hunt, and he gets in with ease. Touchdown, Kansas City.
The wild card for this game specifically, we'll tell you who that is coming up in just a few minutes, but the number one key to this game, I think every game can be broken down to one specific matchup. I said it for the entire week leading up to the Buffalo Bills game. I said you have got to get James Cook corralled. If James Cook goes off, game's over. Well, James Cook went for 114 yards and the Chiefs lost. Normally, I know there are tons of matchups on the field, tons of position groups going against each other, but usually there's one matchup, whether it be James Cook against the Chiefs' rushing defense or what it is this week, that will define the game. And the matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs against the Denver Broncos that will define the game is the Chiefs' offensive line against the Denver Broncos' pass rush. Number one key to the game. Can the Chiefs' offensive line stop Denver's pass rush? At least a little bit. Stop Allen. Stop Benito. These guys are absolute monsters in the backfield. And this Denver Broncos pass rush has been raining terror on the NFL and taking big hits at players, sometimes cheap shots at players. If you watched the game last Thursday night where Geno Smith was getting lit up long after throwing the football, no flags, by the way. So this is a defensive line and a defensive pass rush that absolutely 100% can take over a game. So the Chiefs are going to need to be strong on the offensive line, and we have to hope that Josh Simmons, coming back from 30 days away on a personal matter, just now getting back into practice, we have to just hope that he can come up big and actually play and be effective in this game. And if he can't, then Jalen Moore has to come out and play the same way he did against the Detroit Lions when he shut Aiden Hutchinson down. Here's Andy Reid via Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City at the podium today at his press conference talking about and answering questions about where is Josh Simmons? Where do you see him fitting in? Is he starting? Everyone has a lot of questions, and Andy Reid's answer, he got a little agitated.
Yeah, we'll just see. Let's see. I haven't even got him out for a practice yet, so let's see how all that goes. He'll jump in and see what he can do and mix it up out there and do what we do, and then we'll go from there. So I just want to see him back out there. I'm glad he's back and going.
What would you hope to see from him the next couple of days that would tell you that he's ready to play on Sunday?
Yeah, let's just see what kind of shape he's in. You get back into the football swing.
Thank you to Sports Radio 810 WHB for that audio. You know, Andy got frustrated with the question. And I can understand why Andy's frustrated, but I don't think he's frustrated with the right people. He's frustrated with the media or anybody who asks him about Josh Simmons. And while I understand that they don't owe us an explanation, Andy Reid doesn't owe us an explanation, the Chiefs organization doesn't owe us an explanation, and Josh Simmons doesn't owe us an explanation. All of that said, we are talking about the first-round draft pick, the starting left tackle protecting the GOAT, Patrick Mahomes. And he was gone for 30 days without a real explanation. What do you expect people to do, man? Like, I understand Andy's going to get agitated about it because he wants people to stop asking. That's why he has that curt tone, because he just wants the questions to stop coming. Well, the reality is your first-round pick went MIA for a month. He's back now. You have the best pass rush in the NFL coming. You're going 2 Mile High to play the best pass rush in the NFL. People want to know, is Josh Simmons going to be back? And is Josh Simmons going to be able to have an opportunity to play at his best against Denver? I think the answer is probably not. I would probably expect Jalen Moore to take the majority of the snaps, even if Josh Simmons is named the starter, because he hasn't played football in over a month. What do you want him to do? That Lions game? That's the first one Josh Simmons missed. That's a long time ago now. So what do you expect Josh Simmons to come back and do after not playing football, and presumably, considering this is his first time at practice, he wasn't a workout monster during his time away? So what do we expect him to do? I think the best thing for the Chiefs is to rely on Jalen Moore. He's been getting beat, though. Last couple weeks especially. The Commanders in the first half, they beat him down pretty badly. And then last week, the Bills just came after Patrick Mahomes the entire game. And that has to change. But does that change with Josh Simmons? I don't know. But the way Andy Reid sounds, I think that might be a projection of frustration onto the media with the Josh Simmons situation, because he's got to be thinking in the back of his mind, look, man, we're trying to win a Super Bowl here. You got to show up. And I understand there's a family situation, a personal situation. They won't tell us what it is. Hard to empathize without information. That's just the harsh reality of humanity. People will be more focused on how is he going to come back, because we don't know why he was gone. So we have such little information. That's why we're asking the questions. But that is the number one key to this game. You have got to stop or at least neutralize the Denver pass rush. And if Josh Simmons is not going to play, or he's not going to start, or he's going to take limited snaps in this game, then yeah, it's a big liability for the Kansas City Chiefs. That Denver pass rush can absolutely terrorize you for an entire game. They can crush you. They can take the game over. And that's why Josh Simmons coming back is so important, but we don't know where he's at play-wise. And frankly, at this point, neither does Andy Reid. He's got to see him on the field. So it's not a happy situation for anybody that Josh Simmons has been gone this long, I'm sure including Josh. But it's a very important thing that he's able to come back and be effective. And with the importance of a must-win game for the AFC West this week, yeah, we're all praying that Josh Simmons hits the ground running this week in practice, for sure. If something changes on that front, keep connected to my socials, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, no matter what it is. If there's something, a development in the Josh Simmons situation between now and the end of this week, I will 100% make a post about it on one of those so that we can discuss what's going on with Josh Simmons as we get more information. Now, there's one player who's actually limited in practice, and it's a big bit of information for the Kansas City Chiefs because it's a big-time player. I'll tell you who it is in just a couple of minutes. But first, the wild card of the Chiefs and the Broncos game is Bo Nix. What Bo Nix are we going to get? Are we going to get the guy that shows up in the fourth quarter and plays like John Elway? Because that would be a massive concern for everybody. Or are we going to get the guy that looks like he can't quite get the accuracy under control on a consistent basis? He can run sometimes, but he struggles to finish plays. That's the Bo Nix that we saw against the Raiders. And it's the Bo Nix that we usually see for 3 quarters. But in the fourth quarter, he can transform. So that makes him undoubtedly a massive wild card in this game, and something that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to have to get after early and often. Put the hands on him, make him feel uncomfortable, because what we know about Bo Nix, once he gets comfortable, all bets are off. He can put up numbers. He can put the ball anywhere. So the number one priority when it comes to stopping the wild card of this game, Bo Nix, is you have to get after him and get after him fast. And that's where it comes down to the Chiefs' defensive line pinning the ears back, coming straight for him, and Chris Jones stepping up and playing to the level that Chris Jones and everybody else knows Chris Jones can play at. Because this year, I think we could say, Jones, sometimes really good, sometimes not so good. So we need to see Chris Jones at his best in this game. And I think it's even more heightened right now because George Karlaftis, limited in practice. Thumb injury. I have no idea what happened, but I know he's limited in practice today with a thumb injury, and that is a concern because George Karlaftis, he's the only consistent pass rusher the Kansas City Chiefs have this year. They're going to need Furious George. They're going to need him in this game to make Bo Nix uncomfortable, to get into the backfield and screw up some of those running plays to J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. They're going to need George Karlaftis. So that is a big situation to monitor over the next few days before we get to the game in Mile High. Will George Karlaftis be at full strength for this Denver game? Because that's a massive question mark, and he is incredibly important. You can't afford to lose Furious George, and I know he's going to play. If he's limited today, I don't think there's a world where George Karlaftis isn't playing in this game. So the good news is I think no matter what, we will see George Karlaftis playing in this game. But hopefully he can be at least close to 100%, if not 100%. Put a club on him. Put whatever you got to put on him. Give whatever brace, whatever protective measure is possible for George Karlaftis. Because if he's limited practicing on Wednesday, chances are he's going to play. But the issue is going to be how effective can he be? Will he be favoring that thumb? So that's a big thing to monitor as we go forward this week. Another thing, as we'll hear, there's one Chiefs player who has got to get more touches. And we'll hear from him as well coming up here in just a few minutes. But first, we need to hear from Patrick Mahomes because something very interesting happened where Maxwell Hairston, defensive back for the Buffalo Bills, Maxwell Hairston said that they were actually picking up tendencies on what the Chiefs were going to do offensively during the game because of Xavier Worthy. Here's Patrick Mahomes.
The Bills game, with Hairston was saying he was picking up tendencies on Worthy and stuff like that. I mean, number one, is that possible to happen? Did you see it when you went back and looked at things, and how do you prevent that?
I didn't necessarily see it, but I mean, obviously, if he said it, he saw something, and so we'll be better at looking at things like that. I appreciate the info so that we can be better at that as the season goes on.
That is something important for them to know, is that Maxwell Hairston did say, hey, young guys showing some tendencies. That happens to everybody. I mean, Xavier Worthy's only in year 2. I mean, he's still growing into his position, and he's clearly playing through some pretty significant injuries right now. So you have a guy who's playing through some pretty significant injuries in Xavier Worthy, and he's also showing some young guy issues as a second-year player. All of this is okay, but it does have to be addressed. And that's kind of the whole situation. That's a microcosm of the Kansas City Chiefs right there. Is it okay? Yeah. But it's got to be addressed. And frankly, I thought, Mahomes handled it well, as he handles every question well. But the reality is, this wide receiver core has so much talent. It has so many guys who can step up and play big that if Xavier Worthy is that injured and he's being used as a decoy, and frankly, during the Buffalo Bills game, a lot of the time it felt like Xavier Worthy, he was being used as a decoy, which is okay. That happens. That's part of the deal. But how injured is he? I know he's got the torn labrum in the shoulder. So no matter what, Xavier Worthy's going to need surgery at the end of the year. And it'll be extensive. And he'll need 3 to 6 months probably to fully recover, depending on how extensive the injury is and everything else. 3 months is usually the time frame there. And then 6 months to take hits. Well, that won't be too bad, right? If he gets the surgery during the offseason, he gets the shoulder fixed up, the torn labrum gets fixed, no problem. But then we have the ankle. See, when Xavier Worthy first came back from the dislocated shoulder, it was an issue, but it was something that he overcame fairly easily, and we saw that against the Baltimore Ravens right away. But then the ankle happened where he sprained the ankle and we saw him favoring it. The hope, and this is a big hope because I'll tell you this right now. If Xavier Worthy's ankle is good, if he was able to use the bye week to rehab that ankle and get it back to where it's at least close to 100%, then we will see a completely different Xavier Worthy in Denver, Colorado on Sunday. A guy with the ability to take the game over. That's what Xavier Worthy does. He's a big-time home run hitting player who can score from anywhere on the field. And so far this season, he's only been able to do that in sparing moments for the Kansas City Chiefs. But during this bye week, if Xavier Worthy was able to get that ankle figured out to where now he's feeling much better, feeling much faster, and he can cut on that ankle, then Denver better be scared because what Xavier Worthy can bring to the table as a playmaker is far beyond anything anybody on the Denver defense can stand. They won't be able to cover him. But that's if his ankle is healed. And that's a big question mark going into this game. And hopefully the tendencies thing, that's just coaching. That's just like a coach noticing it and then going, okay, don't do that anymore. Because everybody has tendencies. I have tendencies. You have tendencies. We use crutch words. We tend to do things in our jobs in every situation. And every NFL player has tendencies. And then when the defense figures it out and they start using it against you, change them. Once you realize you have it, it's like Rounders. If you've seen Rounders, John Malkovich, Matt Damon, Edward Norton, end of the movie. What happens? Matt Damon figures out the tell. It's a movie about poker. I'm sorry. If you don't know, it's just a movie about poker. That's all you really need to know for this analogy to hit. Matt Damon figures out John Malkovich's tell. And what do? You shut up. Don't say anything. Well, the good news is Maxwell Harrison never saw Rounders. And he told the media about Xavier Worthy showing tendencies. So now it's a very fixable situation for Xavier Worthy because he knows he has it. That's the only thing. If you have a tendency and you don't know about it, you keep doing it. Somebody tells you, thank you, Maxwell Harrison, and you can change it. So that's what I expect to see from Xavier Worthy this week is a much better performance. Very intrigued to see number one in Denver, Colorado against the Broncos. Now, Mahomes also spoke about a major issue in the NFL and all of sports. And I think it's worth hearing. Get to that here in just a minute. But first, I want more Hollywood Brown.
That went for 20. Now going for the deep ball. He's open. It's Hollywood.
I want to see Hollywood Brown get more touches in Denver and get more opportunities because his matchup situation every week being the third or fourth option on offense puts him in a situation where he is often in a huge mismatch. So if you can put the ball up top or just get it in Hollywood's hands, now we're talking about a guy that can make huge plays happen for you and be a dynamic player for the Kansas City Chiefs, but you got to get him the ball. So the more we see Hollywood Brown get the football, the better it's going to be for everybody. You got to feed Hollywood Brown. Lights, camera, action. Feed that man. That's what it's all about. If you get Hollywood Brown the football, it will be a very nice situation in Denver because they're going to spend all their time on Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is a Denver Bronco destroyer. He has been for his entire career. Talk to anybody in Denver, talk to any Broncos fan. They cannot stand Travis Kelce because every time they play Travis Kelce, he destroys them. Travis Kelce has dominated the AFC West for his entire career since 2013, and he shows no sign of stopping. He entered last week with the most receiving yards of any tight end in the entire NFL. And now he gets to go to Denver, Colorado, a place where he has absolutely ate like crazy. And he's going to get another opportunity to be a big-time player. But while The Broncos are keen on Travis Kelce, which they should because he is always and probably will be until he retires the straw that stirs the drink of the Kansas City Chiefs offense. While they're focused on him, you have Xavier Worthy, you have Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and for the love, can I get a Tyquan Thornton bomb? I've been waiting for it for weeks. Put Tyquan Thornton back in and let's see him take the top off the defense like we already know he can. You have this many weapons. I understand that it's easy for somebody to get a little bit lost, but Tyquan's getting too lost. Uncork it, launch it deep, let the fact that the Denver Broncos will have to key on Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce and all those other guys work for you so you can get a big-time playmaker over the top and try to spread out this defense a little bit so that Patrick Mahomes might get a little bit more time in the pocket. Anybody got a problem with that? Mahomes, more time in the pocket? It would be nice. Spread that defense out, man. And we'll talk more about that later because there's another guy that's got to get a ton more touches because the Chiefs have backed themselves into a little bit of a corner here. We'll explain why coming up here in a little bit. Now, one NFL giant, one of the big contenders in this league, right now, they have a turd in the punch bowl. We'll tell you what's going on here in just a couple of minutes. But Patrick Mahomes talked about betting on sports because it's a big topic of conversation. The NBA currently has a scandal. A lot of people asking questions about whether or not they should be gambling on sports, whether or not we should have legalized gambling on sports in many states in the United States. And I think it's a legitimate question. So here's Patrick Mahomes via Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Betting stuff, how much has the NBA and MLB stuff been present in your mind, and do you feel like the safeguards are all in place well in the NFL?
I mean, they let us know. I mean, the NFL and the NFLPA kind of tell us all the different rules that you can and can't do. I just stay away from it just because I don't want to put myself in that position. I mean, that's something that your life's so great, why mess with it, you know? And so it does get, I think more than anything, to me, it gets weird sometimes when, like, you have fans talking about it just because, like, you're just trying to go out there and live your life and play the game. And sometimes they get really attached to them even more than, like, the regular fan because they have money on the line. And so for me to them, I would just say don't do anything that you can't recuperate or live without. And so it's a crazy world we live in these days, seeing all this stuff happen. But I think you just focus on the football and focus on the sport that you love and why you're here. Then you don't have to worry about others.
Thank you to Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City for that audio. If I'm a player, I just wouldn't do it. I don't bet anyway because I'm not somebody who likes to bet on games. I think it turns me into a monster is a big word, but somebody who lacks rational thought. I like talking about the game. I like sitting here and conversing about football, conversing about sports. It's what I love to do. It's why I started this show. It's why I do everything that I do, because I love it. That's the whole reason I'm here. And if you like listening to me, I appreciate that. And no, I'm doing it for the love. I do this for the love of the game. And when I start betting, it starts to not be about the love of the game. It starts to be about me thinking that I'm smarter than the spread and that I should make this money. That's a bad way to view sports gambling, but that's how my brain views it. So I stay the hell away from it. If you gamble on sports, that's awesome. Congratulations if you can hold your emotions in check for that and still be a rational human being while putting a bunch of money on a game. I'm not one of those people. I haven't been on sports in a decade, probably longer than that. Super Bowl being an exception. I do bet on it's once a year. Come on. As it's coming out of my mouth, I'm like, wow, there's one exception, and it's Super Bowl. But other than that, I do not bet on sports, period, because of what Patrick Mahomes brought up. It can bring the worst out of people. And I don't necessarily think it brings the worst out of me, but it does cloud my judgment. So if I was sitting here talking to you about a game and that game cost me $500, I'm going to be really harsh on everybody who doesn't deserve it just because they cost me $500. You understand what I mean? So that's where I'm at with it. I want to keep an objective viewpoint. So I don't bet on games other than the Super Bowl. Because it's the Super Bowl, man. We've gone through a whole season of this. We've been locked in the whole time. We're finally at the finish line. Let's have a little bit of fun. So, yes, I do bet on the Super Bowl. But, yeah, betting can make you lose perspective fast. Gambling does that to a lot of people, Chauncey Billups being one of them. And I'm a big Chauncey Billups fan, but he's caught up in this NBA gambling scandal along with Terry Rozier, who was the most obvious seller. If you watch basketball at all, Terry Rozier being a big player in that gambling scandal in the NBA, that guy was giving away game after game after the most inexplicable passes that led to easy buckets that I've ever seen in my entire life came from Terry Rozier. So absolutely nobody was shocked about that. But I think Patrick's right. The best thing you can do, stay away from it. If you're a player, if you're connected to any league, stay away from it. If you're just a person who likes watching football and betting on it, have at it. As long as you're safe about it and you don't become an incredibly irrational rage monster like me, then yes, enjoy it. Have a fun time and have a ball. Just be smart. You know what I mean? You got to know yourself. You have to have a level of self-awareness. What are you good at? What are you not good at? What am I not good at? Holding my emotions in check when I but money on the line. That is not something I am strong with. Now, one player has turned into a leader in the NFL, and then we're back into Chiefs. But A.J. Brown is crashing out. He's on a live stream, saying, if you have me in fantasy, get rid of me.
I promise you, you might get 200. And I ain't even trolling.
Hey. If you got me on fantasy, man, get rid of me.
He's clearly very unhappy in Philadelphia, very unhappy with the amount of targets that he's getting, with the lack of A.J. Brown inclusion in game plans. And all I have to say is this. Where are all the Eagles fans that have been promising me for weeks that A.J. Brown isn't a problem? That everything's totally fine in Philadelphia? No, A.J.'s happy. Everything's fine. It's the media against us. They just don't like Nick Sirianni. And now you have A.J. Brown on streams saying, if you have me in fantasy, get rid of me. Saying that watching himself make catches in Madden is the only level of highlights he gets to see of himself now? That is a man who is completely disenchanted with his situation in Philadelphia, and frankly, who can blame him? I see the games. I see Jalen Hurts for an entire game against the Green Bay Packers where they score 10 points, and he almost never even looked at A.J. Brown. So this is a thing, a problem within the team of the Philadelphia Eagles that I think could end up tearing them down as they go down the stretch. Having a star player who is this verbally unhappy publicly can really tear your team down, especially if they're a contender like the Philadelphia Eagles. So I will pump the brakes on all the Eagles hype that I'm seeing, especially after a 10-7 victory, because they have a wide receiver out here who's winning games and is still unhappy. That kind of player can tank your team, and I think A.J. Brown will. They already aren't looking at him. They already don't care about what he has to say, what he does, anything like that. They even threw him under the bus for the third down call at the end of the game on Monday Night Football when they decided to throw deep. Was that Monday or Sunday? No, it was Monday. It was Monday. There were so many bad primetime games this week that they all definitely just blurred together. Ew, NFL, this whole week. Ew, disastrous. Those primetime games were just gross. Gosh, just when you thought, like, it can't be worse than Denver and Las Vegas, right? No, it can. But when you watch that game, I mean, it was clear. That third down play, they decided to throw when all they had to do was run the ball or it wasn't third down. Sorry, it was fourth down. I keep saying third down. My bad. It was fourth down. And they decided to throw the ball instead of just, kick the field goal, punt, do something. Gave great field position to the Packers for a game-winning drive where they only needed a field goal to tie. So, yeah, disaster for the Philadelphia Eagles, but they're still winning. So wait for a loss to happen, and then the Eagles will fall apart. One loss is all it's going to take, and the Philadelphia Eagles will completely self-destruct. I promise you. Now, the Chiefs have one defensive player who will be key against the Broncos, and we'll discuss him coming up in just a few minutes. But first, a little Chicago Bears talk. Caleb Williams has turned a corner. He's a leader now, unlike he was last season. He was a rookie. He's still trying to figure it out, getting his legs underneath him. Now, when we see Caleb Williams in dire situations, he doesn't look overwhelmed. He doesn't look anywhere close to overwhelmed. And maybe that's Ben Johnson giving him an empowering Caleb Williams as a leader, telling him, this is your team. I don't care how down we are. I don't care what the score is. You go over there and you make sure everybody has confidence that you're going to come out and you're going to make the plays. And it's one thing to tell him that, and I think Ben Johnson has, but it's another thing for Caleb Williams to take that advice and run with it the way he has this season, turning the Chicago Bears into a team that people were really discrediting in the offseason to now a team that's a legitimate contender for the NFC North, a team that looks like they could end up making a really nice run, especially if they can take those late game heroics and start putting them in the first quarter, getting out against teams early. Caleb Williams has the ability to do that, and now that he's become a leader, I think it's only a matter of time until he becomes one of the premier quarterbacks in the NFL and one of the best winners in the entire league.
Second down, a fake, a boot, Williams running, Caleb Williams into the end zone! Did he stay in bounds?
A lot of people were waiting for Caleb Williams to fail. They were waiting for this sort of fall off from him because they didn't believe him coming out of USC. They didn't like the fingernail polish. I mean, I understand where some of the trepidation came from Caleb Williams coming out of college, but I also think a lot of the other stuff was just haters. And that's what happens when you put yourself out there. You get a lot of haters. So Caleb Williams has a lot of haters. But if you play well, the haters get really quiet. Ask Travis Kelce. He knows better than anybody how to silence the haters. So, Caleb Williams, anybody who's got a lot of haters right now, other than Travis Kelce and Caleb Williams, who's dealing with a lot of haters, put it in the comments. I'm curious because I'm always curious to find what players get the most hatred throughout the NFL. People who are sort of rooting for them to fall off, rooting for them to fail. I think Sean Payton falls into that category, by the way, for good reason. Bountygate. People want to see him fail. People want to see the Chiefs fail just because they're bitter people who are jealous of the Chiefs' greatness. But that's another one. That's another one you can put on the list. The whole Chiefs franchise. All right, Dan Campbell was asked about the tush push, and his answer shocked me. We'll hear from him coming up in just a few minutes. But first,
3rd and 9. Launches it. Look who's open. Kelce at
the Chiefs have one defensive player who will be key against the Denver Broncos this week, and that will be Noel Williams. The Chiefs' defensive backs have been really good some of the time this year and have struggled at moments. But Noel Williams, when he gets a lot of snaps, the Chiefs' secondary looks significantly better. He's a rookie, a young guy, somebody who not a lot of people were talking about, but early on in his career, he is already making a splash in Kansas City. And he's showing more and more he should be a guy who gets almost every snap on defense against the Denver Broncos, because if he shows up and plays well and is able to keep those wide receivers in check while the defensive line gets some pressure on Bo Nix, the Chiefs can shut down the Denver Broncos offense. It's not a juggernaut offense. It's a struggling offense most of the time until Bo Nix turns into John Elway in the fourth quarter. And Noel Williams will be a key player in shutting down that Denver Broncos offense and making sure the Chiefs defense has the best chance to win this game in Denver. Because I know we're going to put a lot on Patrick Mahomes. I know we're going to put a lot on that offense. But the Chiefs defense has to keep Bo Nix in check. And Noel Williams is going to be a massive part of that. Here is Trent McDuffie from Sports Radio 810 WHB at his press conference talking about Noel Williams.
I feel like, any rookie coming into the NFL is really hard. You got to not only learn a playbook, but you got to just learn how to be a pro. And that's one of them kids from the second he stepped in here, I could just tell he's a pro. He's got the right head on his shoulders and somebody where he's just continuing to learn and grow. He takes the coaching points. When he's confused, he comes to the vets, and he's been someone that when they put him out there, he makes plays. So the confidence in him and the confidence just all around as the defense in him is at a great spot.
At this point now of this season, all the training wheels need to come off from every rookie, not just Noel Williams, but everybody. We need all hands on deck. When you're 5-4 and you're third in the AFC West, and it looks like an AFC that is so stacked in really good teams. There's no great teams, but they have 8 or 9 really good teams. So you have to try to separate. The best way to do that is taking the training wheels off of the rookies that you believe in, like Noel Williams, giving them a lot of snaps, and just see what happens. If it fails, well, you're 5-4 when you don't do it. So if it fails, how much worse could it possibly get? Every one-score game for the Chiefs has been a loss. So you have to change something that you're doing. And I think giving the rookies a little bit more opportunity could be a really good thing for the Kansas City Chiefs going forward and help elevate them as the season unfolds. Noel Williams, a big part of that. Also, one player the Chiefs need to go to this week heavily in the same vein as Noel Williams. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But we got to hear from Dan Campbell because I want to ban the tush push. I think it's the dumbest play in sports. I think it's terrible for the NFL. And I don't even care that it's a big advantage for the Eagles, or that, is this something, because Kareem Hunt has a better success rate than the tush push. So I don't even care that it's a competitive advantage for the Eagles. I want it out of the game because it's bad for the game. It's a terrible play. You can't officiate it. It's boring to watch, and it makes every game look stupid. And frankly, the Eagles would probably have half the wins they have if they didn't have it. But Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Detroit Lions, completely disagrees with me as he was at his press conference, this via Fox Sports, telling everybody that he likes, he don't want to ban it.
Something else out of the game, then we're taking the next thing out of the game. Then you're taking another thing out of the game. Then pretty soon we don't have pads anymore. And then pretty soon you're only playing 30 minutes. And then pretty soon it's, so that's why I don't want to take it out of the game. It's something, a team's got a niche. They found something, they're good at it, and it's for everybody else to stop. And it's unique, and it's physical. And more than anything, I just don't want to take anything else out of the game. I just want to leave the game alone.
I understand where Dan Campbell's coming from. I disagree with him entirely because I want the tush push banned for every possible reason, but Dan doesn't want anyone telling him what he can and can't do. As a guy that comes up with a lot of very interesting offensive situations, the Lions do a lot of weird trick plays, a lot of different kind of stuff. And sometimes they screw it up, like against the Kansas City Chiefs when Jared Goff decided to split out and become a wide receiver, but he never got set after going in motion from the quarterback position, which is against the rules. So he ended up getting a flag for that. But Dan Campbell loves pulling stuff like that. He loves pulling different kind of plays, trying to innovate within the game. And I think he's worried that if they ban the tush push for the Philadelphia Eagles and for everybody, then they might start banning some of the stuff that Dan Campbell comes up with, which I understand. That would be a legitimate concern on my mind if I were Dan Campbell. But the fact is, a lot of the stuff Dan Campbell and the Lions come up with fail anyway, just like that Jared Goff play in Kansas City. So I still want it banned. I get where he's coming from, but I'm not coming off the ban the tush push bandwagon. Nothing in the world is going to make me come off of that. Nothing. What if, unless the Chiefs get really good at it? No, even if the Chiefs got really good at it, I'd be like, come on. And frankly, the Chiefs aren't going to do that. I mean, ever since the knee dislocation for Patrick Mahomes, we have not seen a quarterback sneak in Kansas City. And I never want to. Bring back Blake Bell, the Belldozer. Good times, man. Now we have Chiefs Broncos prediction and the game MVP coming up next in just a couple of minutes. But first, one player we need to see the Chiefs go to this week heavily is Brashard Smith. He's the one running back that we don't know his full potential yet, and the fact is the Kansas City Chiefs decided to stand pat at the trade deadline. That means they have to start uncorking it with Brashard Smith and giving him more opportunities, because right now the Chiefs are bottom tier when it comes to running back group. Their leading rusher too much of the time is Patrick Mahomes. So if you don't want an offense that's completely predicated on Patrick Mahomes, you got to start finding a running back who can elevate and shed some of that rookie stuff and reach his full potential. That's got to be Brashard Smith. The best way to neutralize the pass rush is to have a rushing attack that other teams can respect. The Buffalo Bills didn't respect the running game not one play. Joey Bosa played the run 0 plays when they played against the Kansas City Chiefs. He just pinned the ears back and came for Patrick Mahomes. That can't be how your offense operates, or you're going to get Patrick destroyed. That's the issue for most Chiefs fans. We don't like seeing Patrick Mahomes get destroyed, nor should we. So the biggest thing the Chiefs can do is get a running game going that teams can respect, so at least they aren't going in there every single week believing that all they have to do is pin their ears back and come for Patrick Mahomes and never respect the run. So I hope they give the ball to Brashard Smith, because he is the one guy where we don't know his potential.
4th and 17. Mahomes spinning back around, looking way down the field. Going to need a big one here. There it is to Rice at the 15. And
on to the prediction. Chiefs, Broncos. We will be live on TikTok for the game, as we are for all Chiefs games. We will be live on TikTok for Chiefs and Broncos. Come join me at Mike Bassano. It's going to be an absolute blast, as it always is, so we can talk about the game while it's happening. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I'll be doing the post-game show right here, right after the game, like I always do. But for the prediction, I have Chiefs win 28-17. Patrick Mahomes will score all 4 touchdowns, some with the legs, some with the arm. And the fact is, the Kansas City Chiefs will walk out of Denver with everyone trying to crown them once again. But the job is very far from over. The Chiefs during the second half of this season have got to make a huge statement and get into the playoffs with a somewhat favorable position in order to have a road to the Super Bowl that isn't going to be a gauntlet. Now, even if they get in as the 7th seed, the Chiefs are still a huge threat to everybody in the NFL. But by beating the Denver Broncos, they stay in contention for the AFC West and for a chance to have a game in the playoffs at Arrowhead Stadium, which does tilt the scales pretty heavily toward the Kansas City Chiefs. So it is a big goal and a big deal that the Chiefs get that home game and win the AFC West, and in order to do that, they have a must-win in Denver, Colorado this week. 28-17, Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes with total touchdowns is the MVP of the game. Now, Bo Nix has been great in the fourth quarter, but Spags is better. So as much as I worry about Bo Nix taking the game over in the fourth, having a big run, and pulling away like he has this season for the Denver Broncos, the one thing to keep in mind is he has not gone up against Steve Spagnuolo this season. So even though he's been great in the fourth quarter all year, Spags in the fourth quarter has been even better. So that is a huge matchup to watch this week, is Spags and his defense in the fourth quarter against Bo Nix, who magically turns into John Elway every time there's 15 minutes left in the game. Now the Chiefs offense, I think, will get off to a somewhat slow start. Coming off of a bye, we've noticed more and more they get off to a somewhat slow start every single week, especially against better teams, but they will come on in the second half. Now, to play devil's advocate for myself here, if the Chiefs come out and they get out to a fast offensive start, we are going to see a totally different kind of football team, because the Denver Broncos aren't used to teams coming out and getting to a super fast start that also have a defensive capability to hold Bo Nix and that offense down in the fourth quarter. So if the Chiefs get out to a fast start offensively, the chances are they will end up blowing the doors off the Denver Broncos and win somewhere in the neighborhood of 31-10, which would be a monstrous statement on the road for the Kansas City Chiefs and take the wind right out of the sails of that 7-game winning streak for the Denver Broncos. So while my prediction is 28-17, it could be 31-10 if the Chiefs get out to a fast start offensively and they rattle Bo Nix early.
That went for 20. Now going for the deep ball. He's open. It's Hollywood.
We got one more thing. The MVP, other than Patrick Mahomes, Hollywood Brown. He creates a matchup problem because the Denver Broncos defense is going to have to spend so much time on so many other guys. Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster. With all the weapons the Kansas City Chiefs offense has, it's very simple for a guy like Hollywood Brown to get lost in the shuffle. And I think he has a monstrous game in Denver, takes the top off the defense, makes some big plays deep, and the Kansas City Chiefs are walking out of Denver not only with a win, but with Hollywood Brown having a monster game. This has been Chiefs Chase. My name is Mike Bassano. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've had an absolute blast with you, and I am fired up for this game. So please make sure you stay tuned to the socials because I'll be uploading videos all week. I'll be doing things based on what happens in the news cycle because I think there are a lot of question marks surrounding the Kansas City Chiefs right now. George Karlaftis' thumb, Josh Simmons, overall. What's Jalen Moore up to? A lot of things to discuss, and we'll keep doing that all throughout the week on the socials. Also, Chiefs, Broncos, TikTok Live. Make sure you come hang out with us. Just hang out. We like talking football. We watch games all the time. So keep tuned on TikTok because sometimes I'm just watching a game and I'm like, let's just go live and hang out with everybody. So love that interaction with you guys. Thank you. And thank you for watching this, commenting, subscribing, liking. Everything you guys do, I am eternally grateful for because, like I said, I do this for the love of the game. If there's one person watching, if there's 40 people watching, if there's negative 10 people watching, I'm still doing it because I'm doing it for the love of the game. Have a phenomenal rest of your week. Again, please follow on the socials, hang out with us on the live, and if you're not, I will see you right after a Chiefs victory in Denver, Colorado. Have a great week.